Hi, watch up, welcome back. Okay, today back on the fighter build. Now what I was going to do was another helmet stand. I wanted to do three two-part projects, so 6 videos, but I got quite a lot of haranguing. Come on, get back on with the fighter build. And I think that's probably my fault, because I did, about 10 videos on that, getting the wheels in, painting them, putting the chain sprockets, the discs, the brakes, everything all on, and suddenly it stops. Suddenly I'm doing something completely different, and I understand that, and I do follow other channels, and I like to see the theme that made me follow them continue. I don't like to see them change their theme and doing other stuff, even if it's marginally other stuff. So I completely understand it, and I'm going to get back on that today, and I'll come back to some project stuff later on. I've got the twisted metal still to use. I want to make some more of that myself. I want to make another helmet stand. I've got more brake discs, I've got more sprockets, I've got more chains, I've got all sorts of materials, old scrap stuff I can make all sorts out of in the future. I'm going to do that another time, maybe when this is finished. So I think you want to see this finished, so today I want to get stuck into the tail build. The one thing I've been promising myself for a long time, I've got it in my head what I want to do, I've got a method going forward, and I know how to start, like the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step and all that. I want to do that in the right way, so I set it off on the correct foundation, and then I can just build the rest as I go. What's in my head zinging around is always subject to change, so I'm not going to make too much of a statement over it. Let's just take you over there, show you what I've got to do today to make a start. Today is... it's 12:30. I've got 2 split shifts this week, which gives me 4 hours off in between. So it's a 4-hour session I've got to get stuck in, and in the next one, hopefully I'll make the same sort of progress as well. So wish me luck. Let's talk to you about what it's about, first of all. Right. Now, I know the first task is to take all this out of the way, so I can then see the space I've got to make something for. But before I do that, I've noticed straight away I need to keep this bit. This little steel bridge across here holds the back of the fuel tank, so that has to stay there, and it's mounted to the frame that I want to take off. So let's get all the electrics and plastic bits out of the way first of all, and see what it looks like, see what I can salvage, or if I can use any of this existing frame by cutting it off. Because it's handy to use existing mounts if you can, although these are alley, and what I'm going to be welding to it is steel, and that doesn't work, so I'm going to have to make some way of that working. Perhaps remanufacture these bits in steel, don't know. Thinking as I go, so let's get all the garbage out of the way first and see what it looks like. Right, there's a pretty wild look. I love that already. That is really inspiring, just to get it all cleared out of the way. Now what I've got to do is find a way of mounting this in exactly the same position it was in, that way around, so that I can actually mount the tank, and then from there I can work out what angle, what height in relation to the bars and all that sort of thing that I can do, how big a space I need for my ass and all the rest of it, and what I can put around the back as a light. I really, if possible, don't want to come beyond the centre point of the wheel. I want it to stop there and go no further back to give that. That's what this whole thing's about. That's why I'm giving myself this task. So there we are. I've got to get some uprights into there that then come across. I can replace this. It's got kind of a twisted mount because the rails used to go up, so I'll have to then angle it, and that's harder to make than just use some angle iron for that and weld it into one piece. But anyway, that's task number 1. Get the bridge back in place in exactly the same place it was, which was slightly back about 10 mil from the centre line of these holes, so that when the tank fits on, the holes that the tank need to bolt down actually line up. It's those little details that make this a little bit more of a challenge. Alright, let's get the ruler and do some measuring. Right, just pop this back on to get some measurements. From the centre of this bolt hole which is going to remain a fixed point to the top of this bridge, is 3 inches. There we go, absolutely perfect. Bang on 3 inches, or 75mm, easy to remember 3 inches. So there we go, 3 inches in height. Now these holes here, if I put that, is another little challenge. Remember, there's no flexibility in this because the tank, when it mounts, has to mount exactly the same place it was or it will sit cockeyed. So I have to put this right where it was. That's where the bolt hole is. And if I hold that there, you'll see that in relation to this bolt, it's a little bit further aft. So it's about half a hole out, if that makes sense. If I put it there, that's exactly on the hole. That's exactly lined up with that hole. But it needs to come back about there. So again, some little tiny adjustments. But the first thing, 3 inches in height. So a couple of uprights first of all. Okay, right, got the uprights in. 2 uprights at the correct height. Now I've got 2 choices, either a piece of flat stock cut into that, and then I've got the task of trying to find exactly where those 2 little M6 bolts go, exactly in the centre and off centre. But if I use this original bracket, the original bridge, it's a little tiny bit wider because I'm coming in smaller with the whole thing, but it's a little tiny bit wider than it needs to be to get in between there, so I can trim the ends off. Then that will go in there perfectly, and those 2 bolt holes sit, if I weld it up against the front, absolutely in line with where they used to, so that'll be perfect. All I've got to do is trim that in width and weld it in. It's so much easier than trying to do that and weld a separate fresh piece in. This is made from 2 pieces of pressed 2mm steel that are pressed in opposite directions, then they're all spot welded together. So that's real beef. That's about 4.5mm thick, proper strong, and because it's curved and fluted, it's really strong. That's going to go nowhere because it acts as like a cross brace for the tail, so that'll hold it stiffer than a piece of flat stock will, which is why I'm going to modify that rather than go from scratch. Always nice to go from scratch, always nicer to make things from scratch. It's kind of more pure, but if you can take the original part, modify it and weld it in, I still think you get a better finish, a better option. And from above, when I take the tank off, it's going to have the original tank bridge in there, which is quite nice. Anyway, it's got to measure the width there and there and lock these ends off. to do now is tack this in, just with a couple of tacks, do some secondary measurements, make sure it's absolutely straight, try the tank on it, and then once I know it is, just weld it up. Perfect. Damned if I ain't getting better. Right, there we are, proper chuff with that. Literally, I reckon you could put a hook under that and winch the bike up. That is proper strong. Where this was two pieces of 2mm spot welded together, and then I've seen there's actually a proper weld all the way along the front. That is really strong, and I want it to remain that whole thing. So I've used the angle iron, I welded it down inside and out, and then I welded this top piece and this front piece on to make that effectively a box section there, triangular box section. So that is absolutely not going anywhere. That's strong as the frame, which it has to be. It's part of the frame, and the greatest thing is it's straight and it's absolutely square. Thanks to leaving it in the vise and cooling it off gently with an airline, leaving it held solid in the vise, it stayed square as it cooled down. It's only cooled down after welding that they start to distort. You can actually hear it sometimes. You stop welding, you can hear metal going ting 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 as it's all distorting and twisting. That's horrible, it's really disastrous, but that is lovely, absolutely straight. But it's no good if it doesn't work, so let's get the tank and actually see if it fits. Right, the eyelets on the front line up with the frame. This still moves that way because it isn't welded into anything here yet. It's just about squareness and where they fit. Oh, I'll give you a close look before I'm done. But that's absolutely superb. There's obviously rubbers, the big, I've got a little pot of these rubbers and stuff that go in there to actually rubber mount the tank. But they've still got to be square, even with the rubbers. And that's absolutely perfect. I love that. That's the first part of the tail unit done. I'm going to have to call it quits now. I've run out of time. It's 4 o'clock. I'll get back to work. I will finish. I've been too used to those 2-part projects. I will get on with this in the next one. The next one is to bring something from down here to kind of come in. I want it as empty underneath as possible. I want to bring it as curved as I can, but I've got to get all that stuff in there. Battery, electrics, ECU, everything's got to go in there. So it's making a box that holds it all, but is still snug, but not too snug, you know, off it goes. So there we are. The first thing was the bridge for the tank. That's on. It's square, it's straight, it's beef, as the saying goes. And from here on in, I can modify the corners, I can grind it back, I can weld bits on it, I can change it. But fundamentally, that's the first thing done. That's the groundwork, that's the roots, the foundation of the tail unit, getting the tank bridge done. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, ride safe, and I'll see you for the next one.